Hi everyone, Donna here with Bookkeeping Made Simple, and I want to talk a little bit about return to the office mandates versus remaining work from home. As always, if you enjoyed these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to try to make this one really short. And of course, if you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell. I assume you guys already know what to do. How long have we had YouTube? So moving on. I do think work from home is here to stay. I do not think that the big companies are going to be able to force a return to office mandate without losing their top talent. The reason is when you allow work from home, when you allow remote work, when you allow your employees to work from anywhere, they are much happier and much more productive. Yeah, there might be a little bit of burnout, but there's a lot more burnout when you have to go back into the office. So I'm going to speak about this from my personal perspective. This may not be your perspective. Not everybody likes to work from home. Not everybody likes the remote work model. However, it is here to stay. I like it because one, I've worked from home for about 20 years now. I really like it because it gives me the flexibility to take care of my family members while still working. It also allows me to do things like, and I realize there are tax laws that get involved when you go out of state. I think they're stupid, but there are tax laws that get involved when you go out of state. For example, if I go into New York and I'm working there, if I'm even working there for one day and they get wind of it, then I have to pay payroll taxes to New York State. I understand this is to cover athletes, but I think that's the most stupid thing I have ever heard of. I understand it's there to cover athletes and musicians who are there for one night or maybe two, putting on a show or having a game, and they're high earners. However, it is very easy for those states to then insist that if I go to New York on vacation and I'm working in my hotel room, even though I don't make very much money there, and they can then say, oh, you have to pay payroll tax to us, which becomes a compliance nightmare for business owners. So I do get that. And I understand it. However, I am in Utah. I live just south of Salt Lake City. So if I want to go to St. George, Utah on vacation and get a hotel room there and do my work there, I certainly can. And I don't really think that it's anybody's business unless there's confidentiality issues, in which case I have already thought of that and prepared for that. Okay. So and that would be if I was like working at the pool. But who should work from home? Yes, if you are able to work from home, if you are an information worker, if you're an office worker, if you have the same equipment at home as you do in the office, I think you should work from home. If you are a mechanic, of course you have to go to where the vehicle is. You have to go to the shop where everything is set up to make things easy for you to work. If you are a physician, you have to go to where your patients are. If you're an attorney, you have to go to court. You may be able to go to court remotely in some places, but you do have to. There are certain professions and certain jobs. You know, if you're a waitress, obviously you have to be at the restaurant. But if you're able to work from home, I really do. I like it. I think that people should have that option. As you watch these videos, you will notice, by the way, that I don't have any problems with most of the things that most people do. It's usually none of my business. What I have a problem with is when they try to make it my business. In other words, when I was in kindergarten, I was told that I couldn't do certain things because if I let one person do it, I have to let everybody do it. And I thought that was the most stupid thing I had ever heard then, and I was only 5. Years later, I still think that that attitude is the most stupid thing I have ever heard. Why? Because different people have different needs. I like working from home. I tend to have ADHD. I have ADHD. And I may be slightly on the autism scale. I'm not sure. Really high function. I don't like any changes to my routine, which is why I think I may be, and I have to have things a certain way. So if I'm working in an office and someone stops by my desk to talk to me, I can certainly switch tasks and talk to them, but it's going to take me an hour of trying to remember where I was and what I was doing to get back to it. And that's frustrating. It is especially frustrating when I have a limited amount of time to do an unlimited amount of work. So because of my challenges with focus, I prefer to work at home, especially when I'm the only one at home, so that I can focus, so I can shut the door, so that I only have to deal with 1 or 2 people and not 50 people in an office. When there's a bunch of people in the office. Now, when I worked in offices, I was in a bullpen, and that is the worst possible way for me to have to work. It was an open office. There were no, we didn't even have cubicles. We just had an open office, which is the most awful way of trying to get work done because of the distractions. And by the way, people who are information workers tend to be very introverted. So every time someone would come by and talk to me, I lost energy and I lost focus. And that probably cost my employee thousands of dollars, my employer thousands of dollars. When I am in my own office, in my own space, I can control what interruptions I will allow. And I don't have a lot of chatter in the background to distract me and to pull my energy. And so I'm able to get more work done. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Someone just emailed me, it popped up on my screen and I'm distracted. Anyway, moving on. I don't see any downside to working remotely. I really don't. The people, and we saw this during 2020 and 2021 into 2022, when most information workers were working from their home offices. Profitability for those companies went through the roof. Productivity for those employees went through the roof. People were not as exhausted when they were able to work from their own space. Now, it doesn't have to be at home. I have a dedicated room in my home that is my office, and I shut the door and lock it when I'm done. Not everybody has that luxury. You may have to rent space from an office to get that level of privacy. Like I said, not everybody has that luxury. But if you do, I don't see why you wouldn't use it. Also, part of the reason for the drive to return to office, it makes absolutely no sense if you look at it on the surface, because like I said, when people were working from home, productivity was up, profits were up, everything was going really well. And the people who are working from home started to figure out that, hey, it only takes me 5 minutes to run a load of laundry. I could do that on my lunch break. I could do that during my regular 10-minute breaks. I can manage my energy levels much better. And most time management is really energy management. So people were getting more done with less time. And women in particular were able to get everything done that they needed done. I want you to keep in mind, women who work outside of the home work 2 shifts at least. They have to do their paid work outside of the home, and then they return home, and now they have to do the cooking, the cleaning, and the childcare. And sometimes the child is 6 feet tall and married to you. Not always, but sometimes. Yes, Christopher, I'm talking about you. So when I am able to work from home, I can then manage that energy. So if I'm really struggling, and sometimes I do, when I'm really wrestling with the tax issue and I am just melting down trying to figure it out, it is much easier for me to step away from it and go clean the kitchen or do another chore that needs to be done to reset my brain so that I come back to with fresh eyes and I'm able to continue to work when I am working in my own space, which drives up productivity. And as an employer, I want my staff to be productive. When I have to drive, and I don't think I've ever had less than a 30-minute drive to an office, that's another hour out of my day, maybe more. Plus, now I have to work outside of the office and come home, or outside of the home and then come home, and then I have to work a second shift. Women are exhausted. We're trying to be everything to everyone, and we just don't have the time resources to do it. So when women found out that they could work from home and they could help their kids with homework here and there in between calls, or they could take a 10-minute break and go make up the bed so that at night they would go into their bedroom to a nice, clean, restful area. They could eat healthier meals because they didn't have to go out to eat. They could, but they didn't have to go out to eat because you're right here in their kitchen. They could determine what it was they wanted to put into their bodies. They could take time out, on their lunch break, they could exercise because they were home and close to the gym instead of having to figure all that out. Now, the arguments for returning to office are, one, you have managers that are in the butts and seats model. And what does that mean? That means that out of sight, out of mind, they want to see your butt in a seat and they don't know how to manage any other way. I think those managers need retraining. It's actually pretty easy to have a roster of employees and do trainings with them on a frequent basis. It has not been very difficult for me to look through my employees' work to see where they're lacking and then give them more guidance. And if you have more than a few employees, you might need a whole roster to do that. But how is that any different than sitting? When I worked in an office, it's been a while, it was very, very easy for me to clear my internet history. And I could actually do absolutely nothing all day. The fact that I was in an office did not make me more productive while I was there. When I had to work from home, especially when I was the business owner, but when I worked from home, I was now able to get more done because I had control over my time. But I will tell you, your employees know very, very, very well how to look busy when they're not. So the butts and seat model is a terrible model for managing employees. Get over it. Number two, not every employee has the same needs. Just because Bob in sales wants to work in the office doesn't mean Millicent in accounting does. She might not want to have anything to do with the office because everything is scanned. Everything should be online. Maybe she does need to go in and pick up physical paperwork, but honestly, how much physical paperwork is there anymore? Okay. You have if you have sales guys, you make them take pictures of their receipts and send it into accounting. If you need to do expense reports, again, you make the guys creating the expenses prepare those reports and send them to Millicent in accounting, no matter where she's working. So the butts and seats model just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It has Very little to do with actual productivity. Bob in sales may really like being in the office because if he's in sales, he's probably extroverted, gregarious, outgoing, never met a stranger. Millicent in accounting is probably in accounting because she doesn't want to talk to anybody. She wants to be quiet. I mean, literally, this is why I went into accounting. And before that, computer science. I wanted to sit behind screens. I didn't want to be out talking to people. I can do sales. I'm very good at sales, but I am not the kind of person to really want to be a salesperson. My husband, on the other hand, is like Bob. He wants to be in an office. There's a buzz and an energy that happens that he really likes. That buzz and that energy exhausts me and it energizes him. So you can't treat people all the same. Like I said, the excuse that I heard in kindergarten of, oh, if we let Millicent work from home, then we have to let Bob work from home. That makes no sense to me because Millicent has different needs. She has a different job. She's in a different position. She has different. If we're going to do that, then we're going to have to let Millicent run up a big expense report because Bob in sales can do it. Okay. Totally different jobs, totally different needs. And just because Millicent in accounting wants to work from home and George in accounting wants to work in the office, that's fine too. Let's start letting people decide for themselves what works best for them. And if you're effectively managing your remote teams and your in-person teams, then you will be able to determine whether or not Millicent's still doing a good job, whether or not George is doing a good job. Okay. So managers that don't know how to manage remote teams and different needs of different employees. Also, return to office mandates do not work. What it does is people, the cat is out of the bag. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I had a cat. She was a Siamese cat. She was a gorgeous cat. She loved to sleep underneath my comforter while I was at school. Being a little bit of a hellion from time to time, I tried to put that cat in a bag. Do you know what happens when you try to put a cat back in a bag? Yeah, they claw and bite and hiss and scream and claw some more, and you look like you're shredded. The cat, folks, is out of the bag. People who can work from home and like working from home are not going to return to the office, period. They're not. They are going to quit their jobs and find one that allows them to work remotely. So, especially if they're your top talent. So, be aware, if you try to mandate returning to the office, you are going to have massive, massive turnover. And it is expensive to turn over employees. It's expensive. You have to bring them on, you have to train them, you have to teach them your processes and your procedures and how you do business. And if they leave, you have to spend that exact same amount of money again, possibly more, finding someone to fill that position and training that person for that position. Why do it? It's expensive. It's a lot less expensive to let them work from home if they want to, or let them come into the office if they want to. And, if you go into the office, as we discovered over the past few years, it's as bad as sending your kids to school as far as catching every single sniffle that comes down the line. I don't like working in the office because I don't like to be sick. So I don't need to worry about Bob in sales who caught the chicken pox from his kid who caught it from someone at school. Maybe Bob has shingles now, caught it from someone at school and then transmitting it to me. Doesn't work for me. So if you let them work from home, and then too, if I do get sick, I have the option of grabbing my laptop. I can still work. If I'm sick, but not sick enough to stay in bed, I can still work and I don't have to worry about getting anyone else around me sick. And yeah, I worked a lot of days with 102 fever. But it makes more sense to be able to do it when I have control over whether or not I'm around other people. So, why are people returning to the office? One is government interference. So governments are wanting people, especially city governments, they want people to go back to downtown. Downtown cores are empty. Major companies are getting rid of their commercial real estate space because they just can't, they don't use it. Why have it? So now we have big empty office buildings. And of course, the mayors are looking to get people to come back into their cities. The problem with that is, even here in Salt Lake City, okay, and I've noticed this for years, I'm a city girl. I grew up in Seattle. I have no problems being in a city. I enjoy it, or at least I used to. Today, Salt Lake City is not a dangerous city, but I don't like being there because I do feel like it's dangerous because of the vandalism, because of the tagging, because of the homeless problem. Folks, if you want people in your downtown, clean up these problems and people will want to be downtown. I avoid downtown Salt Lake, especially at night, because of the homeless issue. And I do understand that a lot of these people are just on hard times, and some of them are homeless by choice. Some of them are not. Some of them have drug problems. Some don't. Some people have just a cash issue. Some don't. But I don't like being around it. It does not make me feel safe, especially as a single woman, or as a woman alone. I just, if I go into a downtown, I want to see it clean. I don't want to see vandalism. I don't want to see human feces. I don't want to see a lot of homeless camps. I understand we'll probably always have homeless people, but I don't want to see massive encampments. I don't want to have to worry about stepping on a used needle. My safety is on the line. And so I don't like to go into downtown cities anymore. So you have a safety issue. So if you're a mayor of a city and you cannot get people to come into the downtown area because so many of them are working from home, you're going to have to start thinking outside of the box because people are not returning to the office. You're not. And you're going to have to figure out another way to get that tax revenue. And let me tell you, if you clean up the reasons why people don't want to go downtown, the rest of it will fix itself. But you're going to have to really think outside of the office or outside of the box. Another reason why they're mandating return to office, there are big corporations that own a lot of office space that's now going to waste. They don't like that. They want that space used. And I think that's a horrible reason. Another reason why people are really trying to get us to return to the office, again with the downtown core, there are a lot of businesses in downtown cities, in city downtowns. Anyway, there's a lot of businesses in core cities who are struggling because their lunch crowd is not there. And I understand that. I have a lot of sympathy. Totally understand that. However, forcing people who do not want to return to the office is not the way to deal with that. You may have noticed over the courses of my videos that I am very much in favor of freedom of choice. Again, just because something works for my husband doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Just because it works for one of my sisters does not mean it's going to work for me. One of my sisters is a school bus driver, and I love her dearly. And I remember right after I moved to Utah, she started in with, well, Donna, you need to come back to Kentucky. You could be a school bus driver and you could make all this money and it would be awesome. And I said, I would rather stab myself in the eye with a sharp stick. I would rather stab myself in the eye than have to drive a school bus. It works for her. It doesn't work for me. So we need to kind of get out of this idea that because it works for the boss, it's going to work for all the employees. It doesn't. When you let people choose what works best for them, you have happier employees. And if you have happy employees, you have more productive employees. If you have more productive employees, you have happy clients and customers. So let's focus on that. The bottom line is, I think remote work is here to stay. I don't think you're going to be able to force people to return to the office. I think that those businesses who are trying to force return to the office are going to end up failing. They're either going to fail in their RTO mandate, or they're going to fail, like go out of business, fail, because people value their flexibility, especially with the younger generations coming up. They didn't grow up going into the office, and they don't see any point. They can do the same thing at home with the same equipment. And I agree with them. So that's it. That's what I want to say about returning to the office and why it is a mixed bag. And by the way, Bookkeeping Made Simple will always be fully remote. If you're interested in having us do your books, or you want to discuss it there, then I will, feel free to reach out. Our website is mysimplebookkeeping.com, and all of my contact information is in the description below. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.